I want to tell you a story, not mine, but someone I know, someone I watched fall, and somehow rise again. His name is Marcus, but on the streets, they called him Ghost. I first met Marcus 5 years ago, outside a tiny church in the middle of Cayoli. He was leaning against the fence, staring blankly at the door like he was debating whether heaven would really accept someone like him. I didn't ask questions then. I just offered him water and left him alone. It wasn't until months later that I heard the full story. And now, I want to share it with you. Because some people are running from God and don't even realize the ground beneath them is giving way. Marcus was born into the kind of life people rarely survive. His mother, a teenager, struggled with drug addiction. His father, well, no one really knows who he was. By the time Marcus was 7, he was already familiar with police sirens, stolen food, and hiding under beds when the landlord came knocking. He once told me, "When you grow up in the gutter, you stop dreaming about stars. You just try not to drown." At 13, Marcus joined a local gang. Not because he wanted to, but because it felt like family. They protected him, fed him, gave him clothes, even if the clothes were bloodstained. He was a smart kid, too smart really. He had a way with words, with plans. By 17, he wasn't just a member. He was leading operations. Armed robbery, extortion, carjackings. The boy who once begged for bread now ordered men twice his age to break into homes. But here's the thing. Sin always promises power, until it leaves you powerless. Marcus didn't believe in God. He said if there was a God, he'd turned his back on people like him a long time ago. One night changed everything. It was supposed to be a clean job. One truck, one driver, no witnesses. They'd done it 100 times before, but this time, something went wrong. The driver had a gun, and he wasn't afraid to use it. Marcus says he didn't even feel the bullet at first, just a hot sting, then silence, like the world had paused. He dropped to the ground, blood pooling beneath him, his vision tunneling. He told me, "In that moment, all the things I thought made me strong disappeared. The guns, the crew, the money, none of it mattered. I knew I was going to die." But what he said next, I've never forgotten. "I didn't cry for my boys. I didn't even cry for my mom. I cried out to a God I had never believed in." There, lying in a dusty alley, lungs filling with blood, Marcus whispered, "If you're real, don't let me die like this." And something happened. He blacked out, but not into death, into something in between. He said he saw shadows, faces of people he'd hurt, a girl crying in a corner, a shopkeeper bleeding out, his own face in a mirror, with nothing behind the eyes. Then, a voice, calm, quiet, yet louder than everything else. "This is not who I made you to be." Marcus woke up in the hospital 3 days later. No one could explain how he was still alive. The bullet had missed his heart by less than an inch. The doctor said, 1 centimeter and you were gone. His gang? They'd vanished, disappeared like ghosts. But Marcus, he stayed. And for the first time in his life, he started asking questions. He asked for a Bible. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's the part where everything becomes perfect, where the bad guy turns good and starts preaching on corners. But no, redemption isn't a magic wand. It's a war. And Marcus fought hard. Withdrawal, nightmares, the guilt, the shame, the temptation to go back. Sometimes he'd stand in the mirror and just scream, but he kept going. Every day he read a little more. Every night he prayed, even when it felt like no one was listening. He found a small church, nothing fancy, just plastic chairs and a rusted tin roof. But he walked in, sat in the back, and listened. For weeks, no one even knew his name. One day, the pastor was preaching about the prodigal son. You know the story, how a boy took everything, ran wild, and when he came back filthy and broken, the father didn't punish him. He embraced him. Marcus broke down. Right there. Middle of the sermon. He cried like a baby. That was the day he gave his life to Christ. It wasn't instant. It wasn't smooth. But it was real. Marcus started volunteering, cleaning the church, stacking chairs, helping out with youth. He began sharing his story at small gatherings. At first, it was awkward. People didn't believe him. Some were scared. Others laughed. But then, one by one, they started listening. Because pain recognizes pain, and truth, it cuts through. I remember one night, he told a group of teenagers about the time he held a gun to a woman's head during a robbery. He didn't spare the details. He wasn't proud of it. And then he said, "I wish I could go back. I can't. But I can tell you this. You don't want to carry that kind of darkness in your soul. There's nothing glamorous about it. Nothing strong about hurting people. He looked them in the eyes and said, "The devil doesn't give out promotions. He gives out graves." Today, Marcus isn't perfect. He still struggles. Some days are harder than others. He still flinches at sirens, still checks over his shoulder, but he's free. Not because the past didn't happen, but because it doesn't own him anymore. He started a rehab outreach in Eastlands, helps boys coming out of the same streets that nearly buried him. He even reconciled with his mother, who, by God's grace, has been clean for over a year now. And you know what the most powerful thing is? He never calls himself a gangster turned Christian. He says, "I'm just a man who met Jesus when I should have met death." I tell you this story because someone needs to hear it. Maybe you're not in a gang. Maybe you've never held a weapon or stolen anything in your life. But maybe you're still trapped. Trapped in shame. Trapped in sin. Trapped in the lie that it's too late for you. Listen to me. If Marcus can be redeemed, so can you. God doesn't wait for perfect people. He comes for the broken, the bleeding, the hopeless. He comes for the ghosts of this world. There's one thing Marcus said to me that I'll never forget. We were walking home after one of his talks. It was late. The streets were quiet. And I asked him, "Do you ever regret your past?" He paused. Then he said, "I regret the pain I caused. Yes, I regret the lives I ruined. But I don't regret the brokenness. Because without it, I would have never known I needed saving. So I ask you now, what's your brokenness? What are you hiding under your smile, your hustle, your silence? Because if God could find Marcus in a blood-soaked alley, he can find you right where you are. Don't wait for a bullet. Don't wait for the grave to get your wake-up call. Grace is knocking. Will you open the door?